If you guys want to update the front end on your Suzuki RM125 or 250, or even your RMZ 250 or 450, I've got the setup for you. So this kit here allows you to adapt a newer RMZ front fender and number plate onto your bike. So let's rip this old school looking fender and number plate off and see how the new one looks on there. It's got one bolt on top of the number plate, and that's about it. And a few bolts on bottom, and off comes the fender. Now to mount the newer fender, you're gonna have to re-drill a few holes here, and this kit comes with the drill bit to do so, as well as a template, just so that way the holes are perfectly right where they need to be. Now if you bought a kit for a RMZ 250 or 450, the newer models, you actually won't get the template because the fender already has the right holes to mount it up on there. All you will need is the bracket for mounting that number plate. The first things first, we're gonna grab that template, and then we'll need 2 of the flange washers, and we're gonna put them in the fender from the bottom side. Now we're gonna flip the fender over and line up the template with the threaded holes toward the back holes. We're gonna take 2 of the bolts, thread it from the bottom side, just to secure that template in place on the fender. You want to snug these bolts up, and we're just going to drill through these 2 holes right here. Now it's a little tough because you can see it's right on the ridge, right on the very edge of that ridge. Make sure you're nice and straight here with the drill. Then we're going to remove that template. Looks like those drilled out pretty good. We're going to take a knife and clean up any burrs here. And with that, we are ready to mount the fender on the bike. Here we go. Excited to see how this is going to look on here. Now for the fender hardware, comes with all the bolts and washers here. We have 2 shorter bolts. You're just going to use the flat washer on those. And then the 2 longer bolts are going to have a stepped washer. All 6 of these stepped washers are the same. And these 4 leftover stepped washers are going to go on the top side of the fender. They just pop in from the top side. Now these 2 front holes might be a little tricky because they are at an angle, so the washer may not want to stay in place. Looks like these ones are staying in place pretty good. However, if they don't want to stay put while you're putting the fender on, you can put a little bit of grease on the lip here, and that'll help just stick it into the fender like that. Now the easiest way I found to get the fender bolted into place is to get your front bolt, the longer bolt with the flange washer, set up on the extension. Slide your fender into position and line up a front hole. We're just gonna kind of hand tighten it for now. Grab your other side front bolt. Get that started as well. The main thing here is you just want to get all the bolts started before you tighten any of them up. Looks like that lined up perfectly. Now you're going to want to tighten the front bolts first. Snug those down and then hit the back bolts. Now the reason why we went with these really thin head bolts is because these 2 front bolts are kind of sticking down, and if you used a thicker head bolt, like a regular 8mm head bolt, it would actually contact the tire when the suspension compresses all the way. So we went with a little thinner head bolt to give some clearance there. And there we have it. Fender is nice and snug on there. Feels just as tight as OEM. Now for the number plate, this is going to need an adapter bracket that comes in the kit. So it just snaps right over this hole here. Just buttery fitment there. Throw in the supplied bolt and washer. Make sure it's nice and even on both sides. Now we're ready for the number plate. This slips behind the brake line, and it'll go into this little nub right here. That locks it into place. You got 2 shoulder bolts for the top going into the bracket here. And there you have it. Front plate's all mounted up. Now we've got two things left in the kit, and those are the fork protectors. So if you're gonna be running a Cycra Stadium front plate, it has these portions here that zip tie onto the fork, which I really like the style of these fork or these number plates, but if you don't protect the anodizing on the fork, it'll actually wear from the number plate. So we included these vinyl strips here. It's actually clear vinyl, and all you do is wrap it around the fork tube. It's easier to do when the number plate and fender are off the bike. Just wrap it around, and that will protect your anodizing or any type of coating that you have on the forks. The very last thing to do is secure this number plate to the fork. If you're using a Stadium plate here, I just like to run a zip tie from the backside and secure it, and then the nub right here, I'll tuck it kind of in between the fender and the fork so that way you can't see it. So this is what the 2018 and newer RM250 front end looks like on a RM250. I like how aggressive it is with the points here, all the aggressive lines. If you're wanting to run this style, I guess this would be the 2008 to 2017 style on your RM 125 or 250. I also have a kit for this too. It comes with the fender template to re-drill your holes, and you won't need the bracket since this number plate just bolts right onto your existing triple clamp.